Welcome to Crosstown Cardboard episode 95, and we have a special guest for this one. We promised it. We're going to deliver, and we're going to take a penalty kick and hopefully make a goal. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here with our guest, Scott, who Craig is going to introduce. And the intros are getting cheesier, but the content is getting better. I'm Carmine at Carmine's Cards, the sports storyteller here in Greenville, South Carolina, but originally from Westchester County, New York. And we have also Craig, of course, the other half of Crosstown Cardboard, the soccer coach, the math teacher in New York City at New York City Sports Cards. And we're calling this episode National Afterparty because it's a party after the National, and it has a specific sport which Craig knows a lot about. So, Craig, can you introduce our guest, his Instagram handle, and then we can really get into really a passion project of what's going to happen right after the National Card Show.
Definitely. So last episode was titled the Sports Card Summer. Mm-hmm. And what highlights the Sports Card Summer more than the National, right? So I'm excited to have Scott on here, who's WCO Cards on Instagram, because Scott is one of the organizers of the SoCo Expo, which is a soccer card event happening at the National. And let me preface this by saying this is not some trade night organized at a hotel by a bunch of influencers where, let's be honest, those are all the same thing, right? A bunch of people gather in a room. There's a few influencers. We're in a hotel lobby. They're all the same, right? They're all more or less the same. I'm not complaining.
Is that what you would call our Wolfpack, the artist formerly known as the Wolfpack trade night? Is that what you would call what we did?
Right. Yes. And there's nothing. I love the trade nights at the Nationals. Don't get me wrong. But there's really not much organization to them, which leads me into the SoCo Expo. So, Scott, what was the inspiration behind creating this event? What is the theme of this event for anyone who doesn't know? And just kind of talk about the process in organizing this event and the details of it. So, Scott, take it away.
No, really appreciate you guys having me on. Really, the SoCo Expo was just a thought that I had when I was driving through a tornado or rainstorm after the National last year. Showing up in Chicago, just starting to be able to meet people and seeing the soccer community was just super cool. And really, I mean, I was walking around the National, I was carrying the sign. I was looking for soccer cards. I mean, that's really where all this started. So driving through and going to the two trade nights that had happened, I thought that they were super cool, but I thought that they could be done better, and really just that the community deserved more. That was really it. And then really going from there, this event is 10,000 square feet, over 110 tables. We have vendors coming in from Thailand, Hong Kong. I think we have 10 or 12 guys coming from the UK and the EU, the Bahamas. Throughout the entire United States, we have vendors. We have over $6,000 in giveaways, as well as this is just a free event for everybody to attend. We have free transportation, free food, and free giveaways. We really just wanted to be able to throw a party for the community, get everybody in a room for 3 nights that we actually have the ability to break bread and hang out. Versus being segmented throughout the entire time.
And it is heavily based around soccer cards and the soccer community, but you said there's going to be a little sprinkling of other stuff too. So would you say if you don't necessarily collect soccer cards, it's still worth coming to this event and checking out the scene?
Oh, definitely. We have a number of card dealers who do mixed sports throughout the country. So whether you're looking for women's soccer, women's basketball, or women's sports, we have vendors who are doing that. We have guys who specialize in football. We have F1, a couple vendors who are going to be doing some of that. So there will definitely be a mixed bag, but the primary focus is soccer.
I know.
And just to be,
no, go ahead, Craig. You're the soccer guy.
I was going to say, just to paint the picture totally clear, the National ends at 5 or 6.
The National ends at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. And this is not just a trade night where people show up on the floor and they disperse their stuff out on the floor for others to look at. This is essentially another show after the show. And like you said, tables, there's food, there's vendors. It's organized. It's like a real space that you guys rented out. I think that's incredible.
No, thank you. I mean, that was one of the takeaways that I saw last year was like guys have like $30,000 cards laying on the floor and there was no table space and there's no security. I mean, we have armed guards who are going to be there on site. We're feeding people. Yeah, there's an organized floor plan. We have panels so people can end up getting educated about the space. We have live breaks that are going on each night. We have a DJ MC to be able to keep us in check and making sure all the prizes are going out at the right time and everything's right on schedule as well. You can get custom cards made while you're there. Really, this is just one big party. But at the same point, yeah, we have 110 tables of showcase dealers with cards laid out right there. So don't have to worry about throwing things on the floor or anything like that.
That's great. That's great. And I know our buddy Big Ken at Sports Card Lessons is definitely planning on attending. He was talking about it on his recent podcast about going to the SoCo Expo, partially because, Scott, at the same time, I mean, you might have had a great situation with this, even though a lot of people are upset about it, but with the national cracking down and, only people whose names are tied to that booth are going to be able to set up there, that has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, using their buddy's table space or combining forces with somebody else. They've been planning for months to set up at the National, and now the National didn't have a lot of soccer cards to begin with. So people with soccer interest, you have an alternative for them. But I was really interested in getting into, since we've now got the details of what the SoCo Expo is, what time it's going to be right after the National, your inspiration for doing this. And I know it was serving the community, but can you talk about your family ties to the National and how important this was to provide a soccer alternative and just a different, after party, as you called it, to the National, but the real passion behind it? I'm interested in getting into that.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of me actually just getting back into cards and even showing up at the National in Chicago last year was my dad. My dad passed away of pancreatic cancer during COVID, which was really difficult, just even being able to try to see him, let alone, being able to spend any time. And, while COVID was going on, I heard all these crazy stories about crazy pricing and all this stuff. And I started collecting back in the late 70s and I stopped probably 91, 92. So hearing all these prices, but really more so concerned with my dad and everything. And then, he had passed and my interest kind of peaked a little bit more into cards with some of the madness that was going on, but thankfully it already kind of tapered and wound down at that point too. And I started going to a couple local shows and started seeing friends that I hadn't seen in 30 years and just really being able to reconnect in that respect. So all the local shows became really social for me, and it was a way to get me back out of the house post-COVID. And really, I went to the National in Chicago last year to honor my dad. I went to go and buy one card specifically that I dragged him around to go and see at the 1989 National. And I bought, the crazy part is this whole thing started because I bought a 1957 Topps Hank Aaron. So I ended up buying, I bought this card in honor of my dad. And that was really the whole reason of everything. Got me to the National, got me back out talking to people again, bumped into a bunch of different people, ran into Craig in crossing, met a bunch of different people in the community, had never been to a trade night ever in my life. So going to the trade nights, and it really just it's all kind of bubbled up from there. And, collecting has just been such a huge part of my life. So yeah, this is just one way for me to be able to honor my dad.
So really, Scott, if you never went to the National last year looking for that card to honor your dad, the SoCo Expo probably would have never happened this year.
No, yeah, that wouldn't have happened. And then after driving back from, leaving one of the trade nights, thinking about this, and honestly, I put $100 deposit down in August last year on this venue for 5 nights. And I figured, you know what, if I can put something together, $100 is $100. If I lost it, big deal. We spend more than that on cards we could care less about at times. So, you know, $100, if I can put something cool together, great. If I can't, big deal. But, you know, I wanted to be able to do something to be able to honor my dad, to be able to really see cool stuff. You know, the National didn't really have the things that I'm looking for. And the people that go into the trade nights and seeing people open up their Zion cases and everything else and knowing there's stuff in there that I'd rather see, like, how can we get all this stuff into a room?
Scott, I love that, you know, obviously with your dad passing, that was probably a really tough time, but I love that you were able to use this hobby as an outlet to just go look at cards, chat with people. We talk a lot about on here how like this hobby kind of puts you in a flow state where you're so immersed in the card show, in the community, that you can't really think about anything else. And I think we take that for granted sometimes. So I'm glad you were able to reconnect with that as a way to clear your head and get yourself, you know, in a good headspace. But back to the show. I didn't ask you this question beforehand, but tell me why an event like this works for soccer specifically as opposed to other sports. Because I can't imagine anyone saying like, here's a basketball trade night. You know, you're just not going to see that. So why does that work for soccer?
I mean, you know, growing up and collecting, there was no soccer cards. I think that we have a really nice tight-knit community between, I think, Twitter and Instagram, and then just kind of globally. We all love the beautiful game. There's more people who love the beautiful game than really any other sport. So in that respect, you know, I guess we're hopeful, you know, that we can keep this community and continue to be able to build it. I think this, you know, we're kind of like, we're treated as like the redheaded stepchild here, and you know, in many respects. People don't care about soccer. If they do have soccer, you know, someone's got like one card. You know, I'll go to the local show, you know, 5 minutes from me here, and I might see one card today if I'm lucky. Yeah, I just think that everyone was really kind of looking for something like this. We're hoping that we have a fantastic crowd to be able to show up. And, you know, we got, I think, all the right people in the right places to be able to do that.
My other thought was, I think when you see people flipping baseball, basketball, football cards, they're doing it just to flip the cards. But I've always got the sense that the people who collect soccer cards truly genuinely love the sport. So I can only guess when I show up to the SoCo Expo, there's going to be a lot of natural passion in the room for the actual sport and the players that we're collecting and trading.
Beyond. I mean, look, I've been back and buying cards since November of 2022. I've released 4 cards from my collection.
Good for you.
I'm a collector. I'm a collector. I'm not a flipper. I'm a collector. If you didn't see from like the scarf behind my head, I'm an Erling Haaland collector, amongst others. But yeah, I'm a collector, true and true. And I know I saw that as I was flipping through. We'll talk about that at some point. But I know you got that in your PC, which is fantastic.
It is a nice one too. I like this.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a good design.
So yeah, no, I'm a collector. No, and one of the things that I said to you early on was like, I really just wanted to see cool stuff. I mean, that's really where this all came from. Is like, I'm walking around with the sign at the National looking for cool stuff, having a hard time finding it. I just want to see cool stuff. Now we can get it all in one room. I mean, it's like soccer card utopia.
Yeah, I feel that. I remember having discussions last year about whether the Nationals should do anything about organizing their sections. So if you go over to this aisle, you know you're going to see vintage. You go over to this aisle, you know you're going to see soccer, which they just don't do at all. So, right, there's something to be said for the kind of randomness, and you don't know what you're going to run into. But there's something nice about organization. So you go to the SoCo Expo, you know you're going to find soccer cards. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty surreal because walking around a show, holding up a sign, looking for like a drop of blood in the ocean and barely being able to find a soccer card, to walking into a show and the only thing you see is soccer cards. Like I can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah, that's going to be a total role reversal of just what's at the show. And it was funny, Scott, what was your success rate? Because the sign you were holding up said "Got Soccer," like the "Got Milk." I mean, not only are you looking for soccer, but clearly you have a lighthearted, sense of humor about it. If anybody had soccer cards, I'm sure they would, be pointing you out. But when you were doing that last year with the "Got Soccer" sign, what was your success rate to actually locating soccer cards?
There were 12 tables in total at the National that had soccer cards. 12.
Wow.
I could probably name them.
Yeah, I could. I mean, the first table
cards.
Yep. Pretzel was the main corner that was right there. Slab Stocks was there. Indy was there. Ken had cards there. And then there were a couple other, Jordan 41 had a handful of soccer cards. And so things were kind of like mixed around. The 101 Messi was at the Panini Instant was at a different table. And so like, you would just see different things kind of like here and there. And then it was just really interesting kind of through the course. I was in New York over New Year's and connected with a buddy of yours, Craig, who I didn't know.
Jeremy.
I met Jeremy downtown soccer cards at Bleecker. Exactly. So him and I ended up hanging out for like 3 hours on New Year's Eve. And we walked out of there. He's like, "You want to go to Burbank?" I'm like, "I'm game." So Jeremy and I met up in Burbank in February. And February at Burbank actually had 22 tables of soccer. And so it was getting closer, moving in a better direction of what we were, what I was looking to be able to do. And for me, it was really good to be able to get out into the community there and to meet a bunch of the different people, because really outside of a video that we just put out the other day, most people had never seen me or did know me. And I'm the one who's behind the scenes who really put all this stuff together. And then, through the course, I ended up bringing Adam and Anthony on as tremendous help, especially since no one knew me in this space. And between the three of us, we ended up bringing this thing to, what we're going to see in less than 30 days.
It's impressive that you've put this all together. Like, it seems like it's going to be incredibly successful.
That's our hope and appreciate it. And we're just, we're having a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work, but it's definitely a labor of love.
So a lot of work went into putting on, it's separate, soccer-centric, but other sports included as well. Let's just call it a card show after the show. So I'm excited for that. Yeah. That's going to be amazing. I will definitely be there at least one of the nights. But in terms of the actual cards, you're a collector. Do you have anything in your mind that you're going into either the SoCo Expo or the National as a whole, hoping to find?
Well, on my sign last year, I was able to find one of the two cards. So, I did this last year, and then I flipped it over, and I was looking for these two cards. Well, I found one. I was able to obtain one of them. The other one, I'm thinking there's going to be 2 or 3 in the room for me this year. No, since I've been so busy putting the expo together, I'm really just looking for stuff that I don't have. I'm an early Erling Haaland collector. So if it says 2021 on it, no. If it has Man City on it, no. I've been a United fan since '86, so like I won't collect anything with City. But so I look for like the really early like Molde stuff when he was in Norway. I'll look for some of the stuff, some of the early Salzburg stuff. And so, and this is kind of what happened. The second card that I ended up purchasing after I bought a Garnacho, I ended up buying this particular card. And if you actually look real close, it's in German. Well, I've only seen like 20 some odd of these. I've only seen like 20 some odd of these out there. This happens to be a Pop 2. When you look at the English versions, there's probably over 100 that have been graded, where there's only been 2 German versions graded. And the print run totals 487. So I'm looking for really limited stuff. And then once I started kind of going from cards, and I know you guys kind of brought it up in the past as well, I think we all probably got into tickets around the same time. And so I started going from taking the cards, and then I started matching up the cards with the tickets. So like this is from Molde from 2018. This is a PSA 10. It's a Pop 1. This is one of his early tickets that you'd find. But then I end up kind of going through. Then I matched it up with the game program.
Nice.
And so so I started that's where I started kind of moving more so away. I'm not saying completely away from cards, but really getting into like super, super niche stuff and specialized stuff in that respect that most people might not look for.
Oh, that's great. And I just got a couple really nice, I'll call them tickets for now, but we'll save them for another episode at the South Carolina State Card Show that I'm very excited to share. But yeah, kind of in the realm of your Erling Haaland. It was interesting because I was walking around the South Carolina State Card Show, Scott, and it was like 200 plus tables, and it was yesterday at our time of recording, but it'll be like 5 days ago when this drops. But it was in Columbia, South Carolina, in the state capital, so very accessible for people like me in the upstate. It's like an hour and a half, and then people on the coast, Charleston. It was like an hour or so to get there. And there was this one guy who had a whole display of soccer cards way in the back. Nobody was at his table. I hate to say it, but it's not a big soccer area. And like you guys say, it's kind of a niche part of the hobby. And so that's one of the whole motivations for the SoCo Expo to begin with. But I was talking to him, and I had a little bit of soccer knowledge, and he had, Pulisic on there. He had an Alex Morgan, and so I was like, oh, man, I can't believe she was left off the team. So we had a good conversation. But I'm interested with, the World Cup coming here very soon. And actually, even South Carolina is hosting a game. Manchester United is coming here. I'm sure you probably know, Scott, when they're coming over to the U.S. Manchester United is going to be playing Liverpool at the Gamecock Stadium, Williams-Brice, where they play the huge football games. Cool. So I was talking about that with him, and I'm interested if where's the level of excitement with the Olympics, this summer, and I can't wait to see if the women can reclaim their, top spot, and then the World Cup coming to, this hemisphere, and this, our United States hosting several games. Where is the excitement? Because as somebody outside of the soccer community, I'm interested where that's at.
It's been a super fun summer just in light of the Euros and the Copa going on, Copa America that's here in the United States. And then we're going to have all the preseason stuff. So I think there were a couple hundred games being played over the summer. So for a soccer fan, it's been a lot of fun. The Euros are going to be on at noon and 3 today in the knockout rounds. So yeah, with everything that's kind of building, and that was part of, really looking towards kind of building this as well. We're not looking at having this as a one-off event. I'm just trying to finalize some stuff right now for Chicago for next year as well. So yeah, that the World Cup really, really kind of helped push this together as well. Because I kind of feel like it's going to come to, that peak season when, people are really going to look for soccer cards within the next year or two as the World Cup comes here right in our backyard. So I would think that the momentum is just going to continue to build, and being a soccer fan, being able to go see games at local stadiums and professional teams and international teams is really just unheard of. I just even back when I started seeing international games in the early 90s, and the World Cup here in '94, it was incredible. So I'm really looking forward to just all the games that we have coming up, and dude, even the games later today.
Yeah, look, it's cyclical like anything. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of like in and out of my involvement with soccer cards. Of course, I always watch. I'm always around the game between playing and coaching. And I'm obsessed with my soccer PC, which I got right here, that, you know, took me a few years to build. But there's no denying, like last national, for example, I couldn't keep a women's soccer card in my inventory, obviously because of the World Cup. 2 years ago, when the World Cup was happening, I was very successful in moving a lot of my stuff. So I don't think there's any denying that in the time leading up to the 2026 World Cup, which we've been hyping up for years, rightfully so, we've got this golden generation. Obviously, the World Cup's going to be on our home soil, that there's going to be a lot of interest and a lot of demand, whether you're a soccer fan or not. So I feel like you getting on the ground floor early with this SoCo Expo and being able to continue it next year and then run it back for a third time in 2026, I mean, it's just going to grow and grow. Look at what you've already turned it into. So excited to see it happen in real time and where you could take it from here.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, especially with the opportunities and things that have kind of bubbled up from this as well, from not only across the pond, but across in Asia as well. We'll see how big or how international we can eventually end up taking this. Right now, we're just focused in our backyard and what we're doing. Adam, who I ended up bringing on, he's based in the Cleveland area. I'm based in the Metro Detroit area. So this was kind of, you know, a little bit easier to be able to do. But yeah, no, definitely looking forward to seeing how much bigger this can end up getting. And especially with the World Cup coming here. Yeah, I'm super excited to see games again.
That's great. So every 2 years you'll have a major soccer event. You either have the Summer Olympics, right, or the World Cup to kind of keep. I mean, not that there's not interest other times, like you said, Copa America or the Euros or all the, you know, leagues that are going on every single year, but you have a major global event every 2 years to keep this going. And I'm interested, Scott, what was the biggest challenge for a first-time show organizer? I'm sure there were many of them, the least of which was forking over that $100 to actually, you know, reserve the spot. But after that moment, what have been the biggest challenges to, you know, organize something of this scale at a you know, major location where people are coming all across the world?
You know, the biggest thing was I was an unknown starting out and being able to go through and doing this. So I actually had reached out to a couple of the guys who did trade nights to tee this up for them. And I never heard word back from them. So, you know, I had a handful of interest from other people who are like, look, put me down as a vendor, like just sign me up, tell me what you need and let's go. You know, so it just took some months before I really kind of got the right team together. And that was really it. I needed support in order to be able to pull this off. And I built a great team to be able to do so with Adam and Anthony. I really couldn't ask for anything more. And they helped kind of give me the validity in the space, because if you had looked at any of my posts, like I don't post anything. I'm super private. I'm happy to share part of my collection with friends and other stuff like that. But yeah, it was really more so that I've always kind of stayed in the shadows with it. So that was really the biggest obstacle to be able to overcome. And then really at this point, we just don't know how many people are actually showing up. That's, you know, how do you know, how big of a bus to get to be able to bring people over? How many people are we feeding? You know, those are like our two big questions at the moment. So we just made sure we have all bases covered, and, you know, we'll get that together. So, because we didn't sell tickets, this is a free event for everybody. And so that's probably that's the one thing that we just don't know at this moment in time, but we know from, you know, the trade nights from last year and other things, you know, we expect hundreds and hundreds of people to show up.
Listen, we had that Wolfpack trade night last year. You never know when you plan
Right.
an event who's going to go, and it was packed, right? So if you build it, they will come. I think there's something to be said for events at the National where you know something's happening, so you feel like a sense of security, like, okay, I have a plan. And this event is happening at this venue at this time, as opposed to these like random pop-up trade nights. So that's fantastic. I'm excited for you guys. Now, just from a business standpoint, to set up there, right, to be a vendor costs money, just like any event. So is the idea
Yeah.
that vendor space will offset the cost of the event? So ultimately it's, a net zero. So you guys hopefully don't have to lose anything. People can enjoy it for free.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to throw in a little money to make sure that everything goes. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, that was really the whole point of it, to be able to do, the room costs, transportation costs. For the people who haven't been to the IX Center, you're honestly on an island. You can't walk to a hotel. You're kind of stuck there. You need transportation. So that's going to be quite a bit different from Chicago and Atlantic City and other places. You need a vehicle to be able to go someplace. But yeah, no, and I took inspiration from what you guys ended up doing last year. I heard, the Wolfpack was putting your stuff together. And so I was just interested to, see and learn and see, you guys kind of threw that together and got everyone there. And, it was a overwhelming success. And, yeah, it would truly feel the dreaming it, throw $100 down, hope for the best. If something happens, cool.
Build it and they will come.
All right.
Right.
That's great. I wish, Craig, that me and you knew more about what it actually took to put together that Wolfpack trade night, because we had some, I'll call them veterans, but they're just older guys who have a lot more experience with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we can't take credit for that. We didn't do shit.
Organizing everything, but it was people in Scott's age bracket, nothing against you, Scott, just seasoned folks who had been around for a little bit. They know, they're more motivated, because I wouldn't know the first thing about how to get that together. But it's funny, once you put that $100 forward, now you have this responsibility to actually make something happen. So you put the pressure on yourself to like, well, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially created a new job and a new business for myself to do outside of the businesses that I already run. I've done project management my entire life, so this is, in that respect, it's relatively easy.
Okay.
I've had a good clue of what I need to do to be able to put things together. When I was a kid, I set up at hundreds of card shows, so at least I have half of a clue of how to do that. I've attended hundreds of card shows. And then, I did trade shows for years in other spaces. So I'm relatively familiar, but this is the first time that I'm actually promoting something, that I'm, promoting a show, that I'm doing anything and putting a show together. So, in that respect, it's a first.
Is there I don't want to call it opposing, because we're all trying to build each other up, but there have been soccer trade nights the last few years. Yep. Are those just not happening and everyone's going to go to the SoCo?
From what we understand, many of the people who had thought about possibly doing something else are setting up with us.
Great.
So, if we'd like to be able to keep the community together. I mean, that's the whole point of doing this, was to be able to have everyone be able to hang out for 3 days. We know that we're all going to the same location. We know that there's going to be food there. We know there's going to be beverages there. We know that there's going to be armed police there. Like going to the trade nights last year, you'd be at a hotel lobby and you'd have like a little 2-foot table to put cards out on. I never showed a card. I never put anything out. So, I just want to be able to make something more conducive for everybody, so they could feel more at home, and really that we could just kind of kick it. We got music going on in the background. We're going to have breaks that are happening. We're going to have giveaways going on all night. Literally, you need to walk in, provide your information, and you could win a card almost every 15 minutes. And every card that we're giving out is over $100. So it's not like you're getting like 10 $5 cards or anything like that. Every prize that's given away is over $100. Wow. And it's all free. All free.
I'm definitely going to have to tag along with Craig one of those nights, because I love learning about different segments of the hobby too that I don't know that much about. And I know there's other sports in addition to soccer that I'll have, more knowledge in, but I might, you mentioned Manchester United, a nice Wayne Rooney or David Beckham could be, something. I remember playing FIFA. Speaking of kicking it, I remember playing FIFA back in the day. That was always my team, because those guys were so skilled. And I'm interested, Scott, because you're really emphasizing the community and bringing this often segmented section of the community together. What has been the response from the community that wow, our soccer space has validity, has this after party to go to?
I mean, the initial response that we got from people was just the outpouring that we ended up receiving was truly amazing. And then it was like, okay, we got work to do. We need to get this together now and to be able to go. So then it was just really a matter of bringing, announcing and having the right people, on board and being able to, continue to provide information, to be able to stay out there. And I mean, I think you probably look and see at my posts, probably for like the last 70 days, I keep dropping a new vendor every single day. So we also tagged up with Mascot. So, since we have such an international community, we want all of our dealers and vendors to upload all their stuff to with Mascot. So then anybody who's not attending the show from anywhere in the world can still connect with all of our vendors and everything else. And we will be doing Instagram lives with Thailand, with the UK, and with everybody else here. So we're going to be looking to be able to bring people right onto the show floor, and really just having a bunch of fun stuff that's going on. We also have a kids zone. So we have some kids tables that are going to be set up. So they're going to be able to learn about whether it's pack wars or just collecting in general. And really just being able to learn how to collect and understand what this is all about too. So, part of it's educational, part of it's community, part of it's going to be the live breaks and giveaways. And really, I think just having everybody in the room and being able to hang out, because, it's one thing to be on social media. And I've only been on social media for a year and like 4 months. And it's only because of soccer cards. Not on social media personally. It's all about soccer cards, and that's where this whole community ended up building from.
You said Mascot. Is that Ezra?
Yeah.
Ezra who owns? Yeah. So
yeah.
Carmine, are you familiar with that Mascot?
I've heard our buddies, the Cousins Collectibles, talk about it and how basically you can browse what's going to happen in the show, what cards are available beforehand because the dealers have uploaded their inventory right online.
Yeah. So okay. I love that for soccer. Scott, I just came up with 5 ideas for future SoCo Expos.
Wow. That's a lot on the spot.
If you're interested.
Awesome. Hit me.
A juggling competition, right? It is soccer after all. I'm sure there's a lot of former soccer players like myself who will be
away from the cards, right? In the kids zone, zone.
Juggling.
We have a large parking lot as well. Yeah.
Great. Real simple, right? Whoever could juggle the most. Crossbar challenge. Who doesn't love a good crossbar challenge? A FIFA tournament.
Oh, okay. That's
simple.
Playing Saturday night.
FIFA. Okay.
Yep.
Here's another good idea. Take a whole mix of base cards, just throw them in a bin, and give 2 people 2 minutes to sort through the base cards and see who can put together the best starting 11.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay. And then my favorite, I saw this happen at a UK card show. I would love to make this happen in the next couple of years. A 5v5 tournament.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. That's my
Hey, I appreciate it. We're definitely with you. This year, in light of us just having a parking lot, we were looking at the liability. And we want to, but outside of the liability, we also just want to be able to execute. And I really appreciate the ideas and love the ideas. I just want to make sure that we can execute everything that we do, because that I think is going to make sure that it's a great event for everybody who attends.
It will be. You got the right people behind it.
Yeah. And then, for the FIFA tournament, we were just talking about that yesterday. I was talking with Aiden, with Adam's son, and he's helping organize all the kids area. And he's like, let's do FIFA on the last day. So you can bring your stuff. Let's get it set up. You want to organize it and run it and build your brackets? No problem. All you. So Aiden's going to be running the FIFA tournament, which will be going on Saturday from 6 to midnight, I believe. It's going to be from, I think there's going to be an educational piece right before the FIFA tournament for the kids. And then we'll have the FIFA tournament right there after that.
Nice. That sounds great. Three of those, Craig, were athletic. I mean, you guys are former college soccer players, so it makes sense. You really want to get active with this sport.
Yeah.
I love that base card challenge though. That sounds like a great, I mean, any sport. That's a fun, interactive, and then make your best five, or for basketball it'd be your best five, but what is it? Is it 11 for soccer, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Soccer and football. I wonder if they did that on purpose. Just so in case the names get confused,
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're cross promoting the different sports. But yeah, no, that's great, Scott. So anything else that that we didn't mention or that you wanted to talk about that I mean, this thing is right around the corner.
I mean, honestly, our events Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, it's the 25th, 26th, 27th. We are 6 miles from the airport or the national. We're providing transportation. We really just want everyone's included, everyone's invited, and we just want everyone to have a good time. It's from 6:01 until midnight. Arm guards, food, transportation, soccer games are going to be going on. Live breaks are going to be happening. We have collections that people haven't seen. We have a gentleman who hasn't shown his collection in over 50 years, who has 4 tables and breaking stuff out. We have Eminence 101s showing up, so we're going to have multiple cases of Eminence 101s right there on site. If you want to see any U.S. men's national team player, we have a gentleman who has pretty much every single rainbow of every player. We're going to have we have a high-end area. We have an international block where we have guys from all over the UK, from Europe, from Paris. We have, one block island there. It's just going to be a lot of fun. And really, I'm looking forward to being able to meet everybody, all these people that I've messaged with through all this time, that can be able to put a face with a name and be able to just hang out for a couple of days. That's really what I'm most excited about.
You brushed it over quickly. Free food. I do think that should be mentioned. If there's anything that I've learned from my 10 years as a teacher, if you put free food in it, they will come. So there will be food provided.
Scott, have you heard anything? Because I know that was a concern at the last national with the Wolfpack trade night and I know the national's under new leadership, ownership now. Have they said anything about cracking down on post shows or trade nights like last year, or is this something where new ownership and it's just whatever happens concurrently, or in your case right after the national, we just love the exposure? How has that been received from the national?
We specifically, I haven't spoken to them directly. I've spoken to one of the gentlemen who puts on a couple other shows and discussed with him what we were doing. But really, we didn't get any blowback or anything from there. I think, when we first hopped on, or, when we first started talking, I said, the main thing was we didn't want to run afoul of the national. We figured, we didn't want to compete with them on the same times. We didn't want to do any of that. We wanted to be very respectful of what was going on. But we also felt that the national doesn't really have much for us. So we were just looking to try to do something alternative. When I had called around for ballroom space and stuff like that, Cleveland's not really set up like Chicago was. So it really is difficult to be able to find space. And that's what I spent the first month after the national was looking for venues from last year. And so, that's how I ended up finding a UAW hall that just happened to be completely separate. I didn't have to look at ballroom space or anything like that to try to go through the national. We think and hope that, we're a good fit. That's, a supplemental show or an expo that we're putting on. We're not looking to be in any competition with the national in any way, shape, or form. And, kind of the one thing we thought at the end of the day was, worst case, maybe we end up getting blacklisted or banned from the national by doing something like this. That was just kind of the reality if it were to happen or not. That said, I have bought my ticket. I bought my VIP badge and everything for the national. I look forward to being able to attend the national at least on Wednesday, because I think after Wednesday, I don't know if I'm going to have any time after that, considering our show starts Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I'm hoping to be able to catch up with some friends and be able to hit the national floor on Friday or on Wednesday, and then hopefully maybe Thursday morning for an hour or two. That's kind of, and fingers crossed that they like what we're doing, and either bring us into the fold in the future or something else that they're out.
Has anyone attempted? There are two professional soccer players that I think of when I think of the hobby: Griezmann, right, and Tosin. Tosin collects. Has anyone attempted to try to let them know about this?
Yeah, I had reached out to them multiple times early on, and tried getting in touch with a couple other people through them. But I know for them at that point, it's preseason. So they're already going to be, July 25th, there's already, we're going to be telecasting and showing some of the preseason games. So I'm not quite sure where everyone's going to be at that point. But we have,
You can't miss it.
We have reached out.
Atletico Madrid for the cards. Like, come on, it's for the cards.
Do it for the cards.
I'm sure Simeone would just let him go. Oh, you're going for the cards? Yeah, no problem.
That's great. Well, thanks so much, Scott, for coming on, explaining the national after party that's going to take place, centered around soccer with other sports, but this 100+ table expo that you guys are putting together. And it's at WCO Cards if you want to find out more. And Scott, not only do I want to thank you for coming on, but thank you for these custom cards that you had shipped to Craig and I from some of our best photos. And now we have,
this is epic,
from Just Slabbed, these custom cards. I have an orange and a blue cracked ice from my Italian days.
Purple
recently. Craig is in a tuxedo with a purple cracked ice. So, and these actually, just so everybody knows, these came as gifts after we reached out to Scott to get him on to explain the national after party, because just like Scott's message, we just want to put out all these different things going on in the hobby so people who are interested can take part and just spread the word. And, and then you were like, wow, thanks for having us on and hopping on, spreading the word of your passion project and bringing people together. So thanks for what you're doing. I know it's a lot of work, and I'm not a soccer person, but I respect that you are trying to unite people and give them an outlet similar to what it's been for you. So it's been great to hear your story, the connection with your dad coming all the way through, your soccer journey. And I can't wait to see firsthand what the reaction is and, what you're feeling on that day when it all comes together.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on here. And the Just Lab just ended up bubbling up from being in the space as well. I just like making stuff, and that's something that's going to be available at the SoCo Expo. So people will be able to get you'll be able to get your picture done and cards made in under an hour.
Sick. I love it. Hey, check out the SoCo Expo, and it is on Instagram as well for more details.
Yeah, so it's the SoCo Expo is on Instagram or thesocoexpo.com. I'm WCO Cards as well as Just Lab.
And Scott, we will see you in Cleveland.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, boys.
Can't wait.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Peace.
Thanks, Ed.